In today's episode, let's learn step by step how to easily, quickly and successfully perform anaerobic odor-free Bokashi composting at home indoors. Coming up. In our previous episodes, we discussed on the fundamentals of composting, types of composting and the materials that can be added and those that are prohibited in compost bin. Plus, we also discussed on the CN ratio, that's carbon-nitrogen ratio, and the green versus brown ratio. You can find links to those episodes from the description below. In today's episode, we'll demonstrate how to do Bokashi composting correctly to get the perfect organic compost at home with no foul smell and within a short period of time. Plus, you'll also get a glass or two of nutrient-rich compost tea, which you can dilute further and water your plants. Well, Bokashi composting is an anaerobic method of composting, meaning it happens in the absence of air or oxygen and is actually a fermentation process carried out by special anaerobic microorganisms. This was first developed by a Japanese professor, Dr. Teuro Higa. The term Bokashi is a Japanese word that means fermented organic matter. This method was mainly developed to recycle wet, nitrogen-rich kitchen waste quickly, unlike the conventional aerobic composting which takes at least 4 to 6 weeks or even more to form complete compost. So, what are the materials that best work with this type of composting? Anything can be composted, but the carbon-rich materials like the dried leaves, sawdust, dried grass clippings, paper, cardboard, etc. will take a long time to decompose in this method or might even halt or even fail the process of composting. Anaerobic composting works best with nitrogen-rich materials as they are mainly wet, like the kitchen scrap including leftover cooked or raw food, vegetable and fruit scraps, cooked or uncooked meat, and fish, except the bones. These products are actually avoided in aerobic composting and even vermicomposting, but this is the beauty of Bokashi composting. You can also add eggshells, tea and coffee grounds, tea or coffee bags and other stuff which is common for greens in aerobic composting as discussed in our previous episode. Avoid adding large seeds like the mango seeds, bones, rubber bands, latex products like gloves and condoms, metallic objects and so on. Well, now let's learn Bokashi step by step. One thing to note before we start is you can either do batch composting or one-shot composting. In batch composting, you add kitchen waste on a day-to-day basis, opening the compost bin lid frequently. I recommend one-shot composting, like add it, close it and forget it. One simple tip for you: collect your daily kitchen waste in bags and store the waste in your refrigerator. Let's start with step 1, choosing the container. This is typically an airtight container called digester. You can use any barrel or a bucket with a lid which can seal it perfectly. This container should have a tap at the bottom to collect our nutrient-rich compost tea once or twice in a week. Then the second step is preparing the bottom. First of all, place about 20 to 30 grams of jaggery or molasses at the bottom of the container. This accelerates the fermentation process and is a food for our hard-working microbes. Then place the plastic grate at the bottom of the bucket with the knob facing upwards. This space of about 3 inches is required for the fluids to collect at the bottom, which we drain out as the Bokashi tea. Then make sure the tap is closed and then place a piece of newspaper on the top of it. Then step 3 is Bokashi BRAN or the Bokashi powder, which is a magic ingredient in this system. This is a vegan stuff and contains the essential microorganisms which perform the composting process quicker than the conventional method of composting. This powder is inexpensive and easily available. Step 4 is layering. First layer, you sprinkle the Bokashi BRAN over the bottom, like 2 tablespoons. Then you add a 1 to 2 inch layer of kitchen waste over it. For every 1 to 2 inch waste, sprinkle at least 2 tablespoons of Bokashi BRAN. Then again add 1 to 2 inches of kitchen scraps and then again sprinkle Bokashi powder, that is 1 to 2 teaspoons. Repeat this process for multiple layers. Make sure you chop larger chunks of waste products into smaller pieces for faster composting. and also crush and add eggshells if any. Then step 5 is compression. In this step, you compress the layers as and when you are adding the waste layer by layer. This will displace out the air pockets which may be present in between the waste. This is also an important step for successful smell-free composting. Then step 6 is, after you finish multiple layers, add a thick layer of Bokashi powder, like about 3 tablespoons, and take another extra step to keep it airtight, like place a piece of cardboard on the top of the layers and press it. Then finally close the lid properly to make sure there is no chance of air entry. Then step 7 is location. You can keep it indoors or in any location where there is no sunlight. Then step 8 is collecting the Bokashi tea. This tea must be collected every 3 to 4 days to avoid foul smell and composting failure. This tea can be used as a liquid fertilizer for your plants. It must be diluted with water in about 100:1 ratio, that is 100 parts water to 1 part Bokashi juice. That's approximately 2 teaspoons of this juice for every liter of water. Mix well and water your plants to give them an instant supply of nutrients. Then step 9 is leave it undisturbed for at least 15 days before you harvest. But do not forget to collect the Bokashi tea twice or once in a week. Then last step, step 10 is harvesting. This is the only drawback of Bokashi. Just as pickled onions or mangoes are still the same size and shape, your pickled food scraps preserve their looks, unlike the aerobic composting where the stuff shrinks considerably during decomposition. But the advantage of it is its high nutritive value. But the harvested Bokashi after 15 to 20 days needs further processing and cannot be directly added to the plants. You need to process it further by digging a trench in the soil and add this final product and cover it with at least 6 inches soil. Allow another 3 to 4 weeks for final processing and then plant over it or use this finished compost on your plants. If you also have the conventional aerobic composting going on, you can just dump this into the drum for faster and perfect processing. In our next episode, we'll demonstrate conventional aerobic composting method step by step. Please like, share and comment below with your feedback and queries. Happy gardening and happy composting.